Welcome to Season 7 of Be a Baller, the podcast where success isn't the goal, legacy is. This season is all about intentional living, leading with purpose, serving with faith, and leaving a mark that outlives us. We go beyond the highlights, bringing you real conversations with legacy builders from ministry, business, sports, education, and community. Leaders committed to the Wisdom Pledge, paying it forward to the next generation. If you're ready for faith-filled leadership and practical wisdom to live on purpose and finish strong, let's be a baller, legacy style.
Welcome to Be a Baller Podcast, where we explore what it means to lead with excellence, steward your gifts well, and build a legacy that honors God and serves people. Today's podcast is brought to you by First Merchant Bank, dedicated to helping you prosper and supporting lenders who grow their businesses. Today's guest is someone who has spent his career at the intersection of science, service, and leadership. Dr. Michael Langan is a board-certified internal medicine physician, educator, and former medical education leader at The Ohio State University Wexner Medical Center. From mentoring residents to leading grant-funded initiatives, serving vulnerable patients, his career reflects a deep commitment to people, not just problems. Dr. Lang, welcome to Be a Baller Podcast.
Thank you very much for having me.
I had to get all that in. Now, the word on the streets is that you're a music guy.
I am a music guy, yes.
Now, put that together for me. You know, doctor, music. Are you playing? You know, you got the music going where you're in there operating. What's going on here, Doc?
Yeah, that's my first choice. My initial choice of a career was music. No, I knew that was not sustainable, but music, I use it a lot for, separating myself from work and some of the stresses that comes with that. And ever since I was pretty young, I've been playing. So I play guitar. I play a little bit of piano. I would say I'm more of a guitar player than anything. And I like to write a lot of music. So that's it's a big stress reliever for me. And I've been doing that since I was in high school, actually self-taught.
Wow.
Can't read music, but if it sounds like music, it's got to be music, right?
Got to be music. That's a good way to put it, Just look back at your upbringing. How did your upbringing and early mentors shape your character?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I come from a family of, so I have one brother. My parents are both Catholics. I was raised in a Catholic household, and I would say that from a very early age, my parents really set that tone. I always have looked at both my mother and my father as very giving people, very selfless and great followers of the Lord. And I think from an early age, I saw that. And it really helped me lead towards a life of giving and service, and trying to make the world a better place, trying to make people's lives better, and hopefully the world better than before I was in it. So I think that example, just seeing them, how they have led their lives, has really shaped me. And I would say also, like, growing up through high school and college, I feel like I've always surrounded myself with people that have had like interests, and again, a lot of really good influences. Good people.
Good people.
Good people.
That's it. When did you first sense that medicine wasn't just a career, but a calling?
Yeah, another really good question. The earliest that I remember thinking about medicine was probably as a young child. So I actually had some health issues when I was maybe in my early teens. And I remember a lot of the anxiety that went with that, especially not really understanding anything about medicine or the human body and things that can go wrong with it. And I feel like a lot of the doctors that I saw during the evaluation of some of those medical problems were just very supportive, very comforting, and I had to have some procedural things as well, and just recalling how good those physicians treated me and how much respect they treated me with. And even when I was like really scared about things that I had to do or tests I had to do, they made me really feel comfortable, as comfortable as you could be. And as I got older, I really felt like I wanted to return some of that service that I thought people provided to me. And as I went through high school, I was sort of like pre-med, like interested in science, biology, chemistry type stuff like that. As I went to college, I entered as a pre-med student, but also had the attitude that it was like, if I don't become a doctor, don't do this, there was other things that interest me in life, and it wasn't like I have to be a doctor. Okay. I don't come from a family of doctors or anything along those lines, and so I just kind of went with it. I was interested in all the sciences, was doing good in school, and it came time for like the medical school tests, the MCAT, which I took, and I, again, going into it was like, if I don't do great on this, that's okay. There's other things in life that I can do, and it seems like every step of the way, I kept getting good results and started to get more interest in it. And then once you get into medical school, there's no turning back, man.
It's over.
Yeah, you better know it by then. So, right. So once I was in medical school, I knew like I'm in the right place, and and some of those early experiences really reiterated how important the field was to me, and it was more about just like making money and paying bills. It was about being able to help people and make people's lives better, and just, again, make the world a better place.
We hear a lot about medical school and the commitment and all that. I'm glad I got a doctor sitting right here who's gone through it. Could you kind of share that experience, and what kept you going? Because I know there was time.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And that's actually something that is actually really near and dear to me, people that are challenged or struggling a little bit in their career pathway in medicine. So med students, as they get stressed out, get burned out. The short story is it was tough. I mean, it's everything you would imagine it to be. If I had to go back in time, I would do it all over again if I knew I'd end up in the same place. But if I had to go back and do it again just to do it again, I would not do it. It's a very rewarding experience, but it's a lot of work. And so even like through college, college is a lot of work, and you got to study, you got to do your all your tasks on time. But medical school was about tenfold of what you were doing in college. So it was tough. It was a lot of material to learn in a short period of time. Those first couple of years in med school, at least the way the curriculum was designed for me, it's a wealth of information. It's just, you are just reading, you're learning, you're memorizing, and there's not a lot of clinical interaction very early in med school. So you kind of don't feel that reward of like, oh yeah, I'm helping people. You're cramming a bunch of information. So it got tough. It was tough. Luckily for me, I had a close friend that was that I lived with early in med school, and I think we both pulled each other through some of the difficult times and challenges. And yeah, it's you dig in, you do the work, right. And you know that the reward is downstream, and you just keep reminding yourself of that. I would also lastly say, to answer that question, is my faith and just having trust in the Lord, and knowing that there's a purpose for me, and this is what I'm supposed to be doing, and just knowing that was also very, very helpful.
As we talk about faith, how did your faith-informed values influence how you treat patients, especially in difficult or complex cases?
Yeah, the recognizing, firstly, that there's a diversity of people. So there's a lot of people that may not have the same exact beliefs as me, may differ in terms of their values, their thoughts, and what's important to them. So I think for me, sort of the golden rule of treat people how you want to be treated is pretty pivotal in that. And I think that's a biblical message as well, is being respectful of everybody. And so I think that again, that faith has been really helpful when the going gets tough. So in medicine, not everything goes the way that you want it to go. And so those times when it feels like maybe the noose is a little tighter and the pressure's on, again, prayer and comfort and finding peace in what I've learned through church and through faith has been very, very helpful. Keeps me focused and reminds me, most importantly, again, this is, the path that I'm supposed to be on, and it's not supposed to be easy. It's supposed to be hard. So just reminding myself of that, and then just trying to share some of that, that compassion and care for people so that they can see that and feel that. So when they're having a hard time, I'm going to have a hard time with them and share some of that, what they're going through.
I think you kind of answered this next question, but I just want to peel on you a little deeper. As a leader in residency programs, how do you model integrity and compassion to younger physicians?
Yeah, that's a hard one there. So I would reflect on my career in education, I guess. Just to clarify some of that. So what I do now is primary care, a little bit less education than I've done in the past. But my previous position as the director of the primary care training program and one of the assistant program directors of the internal medicine program, I had a lot of responsibilities and as far as integrity and compassion go, you have to be a good role model for those residents. And you have to know that, they're going through the same challenges that you went through as a resident when you were in that position. And that was probably one of the things that that was closest to me was just, being very respectful of my residents, being very thoughtful of what they're going through, make sure that I'm, not overloading them with the things that are on their plate, and also trying to help them organize what's on their plate so that they can be happy and successful in what they do, and trying to set a good example. So just as we're taking care of patients in the hospital, for example. So I've had a couple different positions in terms of how I've cared for patients and how I've attended or supervised residents. So some of them we'd be on teams in the hospital. We would be on teams in the clinic. And so those are a variety of different settings where you do have to behave maybe a little bit differently, but just as a general rule, just again, being respectful of patients in front of residents, and making sure that residents acknowledge the challenges even that patients are having, that their patients are having. It's a stressful career, stressful day. And it's pretty easy to get frustrated and say, oh man, I can't believe I'm going to see, John Smith again, or again, that's not a HIPAA violation or a name. That's not a real person, but, I'm going to see this patient again, and he's a difficult patient to care for. But just reminding them that they're going through something too. So we got to be, we got to be strong for them. We got to be compassionate to them. We got to be respectful of them. And find out what can we do to make their life better. And so some of that, selfless approach of hey, we're here to do a job, and that job is to make people's lives better. So what are we going to do for this patient today, and not worry too much about what are they going to do to make my life better. So just trying to demonstrate that in the way that you practice, I think, is probably the best approach that I would say.
That's good. What is that feeling like? You talked about making somebody's life better. When that patient comes in one way and they leave out, better. What is that feeling like for you, Doc?
It's good. Yeah, it's good. It's good. And I would say it's so good that sometimes when things get tough, it is not uncommon for me to go in one morning and say, I need a win today. I need a win. You have a stretch of times when life is tough, and things don't always go the way that you plan, especially in medicine. You make a treatment decision. A patient maybe doesn't get better the way you want them to. Right. And when you have a couple of those stack up, over a couple of days or a couple of weeks, it gets tough. It gives you pause, makes you rethink, where am I? And when I feel like I get in those situations, I always, again, say, I need a win today. And I feel like that is always delivered. I feel like every time I get in that rut where it's man, this is getting tough, I feel like that next day, almost always, there's something good that happens that day, and you get those wins. But it's a good feeling, and you want everybody to be healthy and happy, and that makes me happy and healthy.
Amen. Sometimes we call those God winks.
That's right.
Where God will give you that quick wink, that reminder that you're in the right space, you're in the right place. There's a plan and a purpose, and just keep on keeping on,
100%.
Yeah, that's truly a blessing. You Doc, you've led initiatives focused on vulnerable patients. Why is caring for the underserved so important in healthcare, and to you personally?
Yeah, that's there's a little story behind that, so hopefully I don't burn too much time here talking about that. But so back in 2010-ish, around the Affordable Care Act and all the changes in healthcare, where a lot of people were going to have access to healthcare, a lot of expansion of healthcare support, there was a clear recognition that there was going to be a crisis in primary care and in medicine, because you're going to have a lot of people that need doctors, and there's not a lot of doctors to serve them. And the patient population that most likely is going to start seeking more medical care is probably going to be an underserved population. Just by the nature of, the purpose of the Affordable Care Act and some of that healthcare expansion. So at that time, there was a lot of offerings for grant funding for training programs, whether it's nursing or physicians, to expand upon primary care. And there was a clear niche for that. And it was almost serendipitous how I got into the role that I got into. It was mostly because I was probably one of the more interested people in primary care in general. At the time, I was an assistant program director for the internal medicine program. And there's a lot of events that actually happened that led to what I thought was the perfect storm of the program that we built at OSU in 2010. So around that time, OSU had purchased the old VA clinic and was converting it to CarePoint East. And around that same time, the Affordable Care Act was offering these grants. Around that same time, I was an internal medicine assistant program director. And my program director at that time knew that I was interested in primary care, and I had showed more of a passion for it maybe than most people. In a training program like that, it's a very subspecialty training program, so there wasn't a lot of people that were like really gung-ho about primary care. So I was invited to a meeting that was to brainstorm about what it would look like to build a primary care training program at Ohio State in the internal residency program, in the context of we have this new facility that's opening through OSU, and there's this funding. So let's put together what that would look like. We'll maybe put together a grant proposal to see if we can get one of these grants. And so I went to this meeting thinking like, oh yeah, I got a lot of ideas about what that would look like. And again, we were going to be moving into the CarePoint East building, which would be on the near east side of Columbus, which is a vulnerable population that we would serve. So I went to this meeting thinking like, oh, I'm going to give them a bunch of ideas. They're going to put this program in place, and it's going to be great. And by the end of the meeting, my boss at the time was like, all right, we're writing the grant and ideas. And he lists me as like, I'll be the director of the program. Right. So I'm kind of thinking to myself, like, I don't know that I'm this. Wait a minute, I thought I was just coming here as guidance. And lo and behold, we wrote the grant. We got the funding. It was a $3.8 million grant that was funding the program. And next thing you know, I'm in charge of this program. And part of the approach to it was recognizing again the vulnerable population that's going to need help from a medical standpoint. We have the ability now to train residents. We're going to train them how to take care of these patients through cultural competency training, so diversity training, again, embed them in that clinic. And there's a lot of like community type initiatives associated with that, with the Near East Health Advisory Committee and other opportunities to really just expose them to that population and to make them a little bit more competent in becoming doctors for that population of vulnerable patients. And so we built this program designed for that, and it trains 4 residents per year, a total of 12 residents, a 3-year training program. And the other serendipitous event is that we actually we were a part of something called an Educational Innovations Project, which allowed us to bend the rules a little bit of how you train residents, because it used to be very rigid. And the program that I wanted, you could not build by those rigid rules. So we were allowed to build the program in a very unique way, which gave them really aggressive outpatient training and robust, quantitatively a lot of training. And so it was really designed to be a very successful primary care program in the world of internal medicine, which is a little bit unique at the time. So I deviate a little bit from the question, but that was
good.
It was very
good lesson.
Yes,
great information. It's almost like a perfect storm.
It was absolutely.
Ohio State purchased this building. The Affordable Care Act comes into play.
That's correct.
There's an opportunity, to serve that population. So there's a greater need because more people have access. And speaking of that, what did the Navigate project teach you about dignity and access to care?
Well, so the access to care part is that it is very difficult for a lot of patients to access care, even if they have insurance, even if they are geographically close to medical access. So there's a lot of factors that make it really difficult for patients to get to the doctor, to be able to get a ride to the doctor, to be able to afford their medicine, to be able to afford the tests that the doctors order. So access is not just a matter of having insurance or just a matter of having an actual doctor. There's so many logistical things that are barriers for people. And it's actually quite sad that we have a system that is like that. And so it is, poses frustrations for patients, poses frustrations for medical personnel, and we have to find ways to be better. And so through programs like that, we were able to partner with community resources in terms of transportation, social workers, things of that nature to help provide some of those easier to access care models. So like multidisciplinary teams, I guess I would say. So having multiple people on a team that can, somebody who could call a patient, somebody who could say, hey, why didn't you come to the appointment? Oh, you didn't have a ride. Well, let me help you get like ride vouchers or get access to transportation. And the dignity part of it is that everybody, everybody should be treated with respect and dignity. And because somebody doesn't come to an appointment, there's usually a reason for that. And so as a physician, it's very easy to be like, oh, I can't believe this patient didn't show up to the appointment. But when you actually question about what happened, there's oftentimes a very good reason. And being sympathetic to that and being able to, reach out in some way to remedy the problem, I think is really the key. So if it's a transportation issue, what can we do to fix that? If it's a financial issue or a medication issue, what can we do to fix that and help you and support you? Not just, here's a prescription, I'll see you in 3 months. It's a lot more than that. A lot more than that.
Wow, that's good. Throughout your career, you mentored hundreds of residents and students. Why is investing in next generation so important to you?
That's everything. Mostly because they're going to be taking care of me. No, I think actually that is another passion I have is these youngsters coming up. I want there to be good doctors when I need one. But most importantly, I would say the profession itself. My perception of it always as when I was young and in the younger generation was that it's a profession. So being a doctor it's not a job, it's a profession. It's a lifestyle. It's a commitment. And to see that degrade a little bit maybe over time with some of the cultural and societal changes that we've seen in the past 10 years or less, we need to make sure that we are still having kids and young adults going into medicine for that passion, for the profession of it, and not just as a job. And so being a part of that and hopefully demonstrating that for students and for residents keeps them passionate and keeps them focused and keeps them respectful of the profession, that it's about people. It's about, it's not it's not a job, it's a profession. It's that's your life. That's who you are.
So as you look at young physicians, what character traits do you look for?
There's a lot of things that I think are important to being successful in medicine. And just thinking back, so I used to do all the recruitment for the primary care training program. And I used to interview all the applicants. So I'd have maybe 40 or 50 interviews every year. Actually, probably more than that. And so what things am I looking for? So I'm looking for people that are passionate about what they're doing. So that attitude, that professionalism, the respect for the profession, that, being a doctor is not a 9-to-5 job. It's a lifestyle. And so I want to see that passion, and I want to see that, respect for patient dignity and patient support. So these need to be good people, selfless people that are committed to giving up something and giving something in order to get something. And so just that attitude and that drive. You have to get the good grades. You have to have the work ethic. You have to, there's a lot of things, but I think the intangible thing is just that right fit. And you kind of know that by interacting with somebody, and they're the ones that they're making eye contact. They're confident but not overconfident. They're, a lot of them have a story of like, oh, when I was a kid, like, my interaction with doctors, or just some life experience that really pushed them and drove them, or a family member that was ill that they had to take care of, but something that drives them and motivates them to do good.
Well, you done dropped some gems in here, Doc. Now I look at you a little different. I'm looking at doctors a little different with that compassion and empathy and all that. When you think about this, is a legacy podcast.
Yeah.
So when you think about the word legacy, what would you say that word means to you, and what legacy are you building?
Yeah. There's a couple of things that come to mind for me about that. I would say completed works is an important component of legacy. So things that you have left behind, trail of breadcrumbs, so to speak. For me, that's been music. So writing a lot of music and recording music, and that legacy, that's for my kids and for my family and generations. Yes. So generationally, people look back and say, "Who was this Michael Langan guy? Oh, hey, he look at all these CDs and albums that he made." Of course, they won't be able to play CDs by then, but leaving completed works for them, whether that's creative writing, whether that's artistic work. My great-grandfather was a political cartoonist in 1919 in the early teens, and I have all of his hard copy original prints, and it's fascinating. It's like you that person by what you can see and what they left behind. So completed works, I would say, is pretty high in terms of legacy. The second thing I would say is touching as many lives as you possibly can. So right now I have 1,300 people that I take care of, 1,300 lives that I would consider myself to be responsible for. And so being able to touch those people in a way that is, again, showing them respect, showing them dignity, trying to make their lives better, trying to make them healthier, trying to, be a positive role model, positive influencer for those folks, leaving a trail of people that pass on what has been passed on to you, and continue to pay that forward to other people. And even like through the residency program, so 26 residents I would have per year that I was responsible for. Those residents are all grown up now. They're all doctors. So they're all people that I'm going to go see, or that I'm going to send patients to. And when a patient comes back and says, hey, Dr. So-and-so wanted me to tell you hi, and they had all these wonderful things to say about you when you were their residency director. So you're leaving this trail of people and completed works. And lastly, I would say the opportunities that you come across in seizing opportunity when it presents itself to you. not letting opportunities be wasted. And the perfect example of that is what we just talked about with the primary care track. I was totally unprepared to be the director of that program. It felt that way.
Yeah.
And now in retrospect, I know that I was the exact right person for that. But at the time, it didn't feel like that. And again, through a lot of prayer and a lot of support from my family, I decided to pursue something that was completely uncomfortable for me, but it was an opportunity, and you got to seize those when they're there because they don't come twice.
Wow. Telling you, bro, you in here dropping some gems. Doc, you ain't playing. Yeah, because you walked in there, you was just there you could have said, no, that's not what I just want to help develop the program.
Sure.
But that opportunity came and directed, and then once you get in, you realize, man, I know more than I thought I knew. That I can do this.
That's right.
I can do this. And that opportunity. Lastly, I know you're a strong man of faith.
Yes.
What advice do you give to young professionals, not just doctors, just some professionals, period, how to integrate faith and vocation?
Yeah, I think you have to rely on your faith in difficult times, but also celebrate it in good times. So when you're successful in your career, you have to acknowledge where that success came from. When you struggle in your career, you have to realize who's there to support you in the challenging times, knowing that success is going to come again. And so I think without that would have been a real challenge for me. And God has been good and has been an important, critical part of my career, and I imagine of any vocation if you're a person of faith.
Good. All right, as we wrap up, rapid fire now. Just a couple quick, real quick. Here's the first one. Give me a scripture or principle that has helped shape your leadership.
Again, I would say the whole concept of the golden rule of treat people how you want to be treated. And I know that's not a direct quote biblically, but you know what I'm saying.
Daily habits that keeps you grounded.
Listen to my wife. She might be listening. So,
what does humility look like in medicine?
Being able to listen, not talk.
What word defines your calling?
Creativity.
That's a good one. That's good. Well, you did good. You did really good on those. Well, Doc, as we wrap up, I want to remind the audience what a powerful reminder that leadership is stewardship. Whether you're medicine, business, education, or ministry, excellence matters, character matters, how you treat people matters. Dr. Langan's journey shows us that impact isn't built overnight, as you talked about, that consistency, working hard. It is built daily through integrity, humility, and commitment to serve. And Doc, I want to thank you for you've been my doctor for a while. I'm part of that team over at CarePort, And it was amazing to me when my wife would share this, we would go out and see you, and the receptionist would always say, boy, it's a lot of people that follow Doc. You're in Westerville now. There's a whole lot of people that followed you to your new assignment in Westerville. And that says a lot about you. It says a lot about your character. Most importantly, it says a lot about how you treat people. And we're going back to that dignity piece, and when you said about listening, and then your creativity and all that, I think that's what persons look for most. I just feel, you just feel so comfortable when you walk into the office, that you are, when I go in there to see you, I don't care who else is coming before me or after me, I'm the most important one in there.
Yep.
I'm the one, my care is in your hands and you treat it that way. And I respect that about you. So if today's episode encouraged you to lead with a deeper purpose, share it with someone who needs that reminder. Subscribe, leave a review, and continue to be with us on Be a Baller Podcast. Remember, your platform is a gift. Your calling is a responsibility. Lead accordingly. As always, keep building a legacy and being a baller. Thank you, Dr. Lang, for being a part of the show today.
Thank you so much for having me.
When's the last time you reviewed your financials with your banker? An annual checkup can help you strengthen cash flow, optimize loan structures, and plan for growth. A small review can lead to big opportunities. This Helping You Prosper tip is brought to you by First Merchants Bank, member FDIC.
Thank you for spending time with us here on Be a Baller Podcast. Remember, legacy isn't built by accident. It's built through daily choices, faithful obedience, and intentional impact. If today's conversation encouraged you, challenged you, or spoke to your heart, share this episode with a friend, a teammate, a leader, or someone who's ready to live with purpose. That simple act of sharing helps us grow the movement and spread legacy-minded living. We want to invite you to join the legacy movement. This is more than a podcast. It's a call to action. And one of the best ways to go deeper is by grabbing your copy of the book, Living a Legacy. It's a powerful resource designed to help you apply what you're hearing and start building something that truly lasts. Until next time, keep showing up, keep pouring into others, and keep building a legacy worth following. Thanks for listening, and remember, be a baller, live on purpose, leave a legacy.